Okay, we are going to do a quick brush tutorial. So, a lot of you are wanting to add blood and gore to your Hollywood Halloween project, and I want to show you that there are a lot of different brushes you can use. So when we click on our brush tool on the menu over here, our brush tool is this tool. Underneath it, we find all these other tools, but we really want to be using our brush tool. Here you have all the menus for your brush tool up top. So when you see that your brush is not doing marks that are, or not making marks that are dark enough, you know that it might be your opacity, so you can always troubleshoot that there. You'll have your flow. Flow does the same thing. It lightens it up. So if our opacity is at 100%, but our flow is less, it actually is not creating as dark of a line. Now let's take our flow up and we'll compare all of these. So I got my flow up and my opacity up, and I have a much darker line. So that's how we operate those two menus there. Another thing that could happen is that maybe you have dissolve on, and then your brush stroke looks like that, or overlay and your brush stroke looks like that. It doesn't really do much here, but if you have something underneath, it's going to look a lot different when your mode is overlay. Same as when you change your blend modes on your layers palette. You know, you always want to have that on normal unless you intentionally are changing that for some reason. The next thing is that we have a ton of brushes over here. So hard edge brushes are sometimes best for certain things, and soft edge brushes are best for certain things. You know, if you want to carefully erase something, or you're doing a layer mask, a soft edge brush is really good. Hard edge brush, you know, sometimes I like to use a hard edge brush to create like a stamp or a line that has a hard edge to it as opposed to a soft edge over here. The other thing is that if you want to create a straight line, you click a dot and then you move over to where you want the straight line to go, and you hold shift down and you can it'll make a straight line for you. And that's great. And see how you have all these little kind of ridges in that line? Well, you can change that too. So that's with spacing. You know, if you have 0 spacing, you're going to get a little bit less of that. See how that line has a much straighter edge? And if you have a lot of spacing and you click here and then you do the shift, it's going to create a dotted line. And so that here is spacing. So as you're drawing, it's going to space them out more. And that has some effect when you're using different brushes, like something like this. You know, when your spacing is together, you're creating a straight line that has some ridges in it, but if your spacing is farther apart, your brush is going to look more like that. So that's something. This is here, so that's how you get that menu to appear. It is right here. All right. Another really cool thing you have in this menu, let's say you want to create some grass. This is going to use this color, and it'll add in some nearby colors. But you might want to rotate it and see how those rotate there. And you might want to rotate it the other way to create some randomness in your drawing. You also might want to create some spacing. So that's an option there too. Okay. So to review, you have lots of brushes. Here you have a way to change those brushes here. You have a blend mode here, your opacity here, and your flow here. You should always check those things if you're having problems with your brushes. The other thing is sometimes your brushes aren't the standard brushes. Sometimes you have natural brushes loaded, and you can just say OK, and those brushes appear. You have wet media brushes, which are really cool. Say OK, and those look like this. And your brackets, of course, make these brushes bigger or smaller. You have, let's see, your square brushes. Say OK, and those look like that. These are really cool. So if you do your spacing, kind of neat. All right. So if you need to take your brushes back to normal, you reset your brushes, okay? And to change your brush menus, again, it's this small button right here. All right. You can also make a new brush stroke. So if you want to think about, you know, creating something that will be a brush stroke, you can do that here, and we'll talk about that more at a later time. You can also download brushes and load brushes in that you find off the internet, and that's again something we'll have to talk about at a later time. Okay, the thing that I really want to show you today is, I'm going to delete this layer and put in a new layer. I'll just turn that off. And we will dump some white in here. Okay. All right, Command D. So let's get started. The thing that I really want to show you is the blood and gore type brush. I might find a color for blood, find the hex code online. Remember, you can search hex codes or RGB codes to find the right color for blood. And then you're going to go ahead and pick a brush that would be good for blood. So I'm going to actually, I don't have time right now to find a perfect brush, so I'm just going to draw something and hope for the best. Okay, so we got something like this that's kind of maybe has a little bit of spatter. Okay, and notice this blood is on this layer here. Now what I'm going to do, and you guys are starting to learn what all of these tools do at the bottom here. You got your trash can, you got your new layer, you got your groups, your adjustment layer, which we did at the beginning of the school year. You got your layer mask, which we're not going to do. Oops, let me delete those. Okay, delete those. Delete. Okay. Then you have your effects. Now this effects menu is really cool. So we're going to do a little bit of a drop shadow on this because blood is actually three-dimensional. So we're going to take this down a little bit, and you can see that has a little bit of a shadow on the edge there. Now if I take it way out there, that's a little bit too much. If I take this way out there, that's like the blood is like hanging in the air. We don't want to do that either. We want it to be really close. And then there's the size. Well, that kind of depends on the lighting. If you have some really soft lighting, you might drag that out a little bit. But again, you don't want to take it out too far because then it won't look like it's actually sitting on a surface. Okay? So the other thing is bevel and emboss. And I think bevel and emboss will help this look like a little bit more like blood. Let's see, contour, texture. Oh, I don't know about that texture. Wonder if we can. So you got your satin overlay, that doesn't look good. Color overlay, we don't need that. Gradient overlay, we don't want that. You got your pattern overlay. And your stroke. Well, stroke is just going to outline it. And let's see if we take that down a little bit. And take it down a little bit. That helps it really look three-dimensional. And take the opacity down of that stroke. All right, not sure if I like the stroke either. So we have bevel and emboss. Inner bevel, I'm actually going to do emboss. No, I don't want to do emboss. Pillow emboss. So that it looks raised up. We want it to raise up. So we can raise this up a little bit and adjust these too. So this is just fun to play around with, and I would play around with this to really get something to look three-dimensional. There's also some really great brushes you can download online called spatter brushes, and some of your computers already have spatter brushes, but what I would do is I just add them to this normal menu, and you would just load those brushes that you download. So Basically, today I really wanted you to know a lot about this brush menu here, and I wanted you to know that these effects are available to you. And the cool thing is you can turn them on and off. So if you're not sure if you like them, you can turn them off and on. So that's a great tool that you guys should be using during this project. Okay, thank you.